Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Roy's Tie-Dye Sci-Fi Corner. This is episode number 242, Something Wicked This Way Comes, the classic 1983 Walt Disney film starring Jason Robards and Jonathan Bryce. With me tonight, back from our somewhat long hiatus, is my friend, my co-host, the one and only, Mr. Ross Amico. Ross, welcome.
Thank you, Roy. How is it we're 3 minutes into the show already?
Oh.
What happened? First of all, we start a quarter after, then we have the 3-minute preamble. Let's go to the shout outs.
Oh, shoot. At least I know you're not a pod, Ross, as I like to say. I'm all right. I mean,
wrong question. Wrong question.
No. It's okay. There has just been so much stuff going on with everything and everybody. So anyway, thanks folks for joining us. We have been trying to do this episode for the last 6 weeks. There's been a lot of I was beginning to feel like that this episode was cursed. Something wicked this episode comes. But I want to thank everybody for your patience. And there's been a lot of family stuff going on with my mom, and as many of you know, so much appreciated in regards to the concerns and the messages. And then Ross and I, as many people know, Ross and I were on Mike and Mary Beth's show doing the crossover last Wednesday, and then Shari had to have emergency surgery. So that was, and she was she was actually watching Mike and Mary Beth's show as we were discussing Abbott and Costello meets Frankenstein, and I didn't realize she was in the hospital in the emergency room. So anyway, so thankfully she is doing better, but she had to have emergency surgery. So with all that said, so just thanks for everybody that's for everyone's concerns, prayers. It's just been a turbulent time, and there's all this stuff that's going on in the world as well too. So with that said, we're going to move on. We're going to talk about the episode, and just wanted to give everyone thanks and everything. Now, of course, this show would not be the show if it wasn't having the issues that it's having. I am seeing Facebook users out there, but it is not giving me who the Facebook users are. So I'm going to ask if you are joining, whether it be Facebook or via YouTube, when you're saying hi, and just say who you are, because I don't know who everybody is out there. For whatever reason, it's not giving me the names of everybody unless you're commenting. So I apologize for that, but just want to say thank you for being out there. And I'm going to try to put some of these on the screen. So
Facebook user.
Yeah, but it's not saying who's out there, so I can't say.
It's one person.
It's one person. I know Dennis is out there. I know Colin is out there. No, we have about 13 people out there at least.
All right. That's a lucky number.
Yeah, there we go.
Probably wants to next one. Yeah, Randy. We can see Randy's name.
Hey, Randy. Thanks for joining us. Randy's joining us on YouTube and from Wisconsin.
So that's why we can see his name.
Yeah.
Thank you, Facebook user.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm seeing Hey Dudes. I don't know who that is. I saw this film a few times back and then read the book. I forgot about I forgot much about it except about a strange circus coming in a small American town. Yeah. Colin's out there. Yeah, there's Shari. The wife has spoken through YouTube.
Hi, Shari.
Lou is out there. Hey, Lou. Lou's joining us from Rhode Island, and
I've seen that bug before.
Yeah, Christian's out there. Switch to MySpace. Yeah, there we go. May is out there joining us from Canada. Welcome, May. Hey, Jeff. Jeff is out there. Jeff, I believe, is joining us from Utah. All right. So sorry, folks. Hey, it wouldn't be the show if we didn't have tech issues, right? So there we go.
I wonder if something reset or got thrown or.
I wouldn't doubt it. you know, so much stuff has been going on with it. There's been a lot of changes with the computer stuff anyway. So, but anyway, getting on to this film, I had not seen this movie, Ross, since 1983. How about you?
No, I haven't seen it since '83 either, and I've been wanting to go back and revisit it for a long time. So thank you for. I mean, I know it's been thrown out there several times over the years as a suggestion, so it's great that we finally got to it. However, it's impossible to find. you can't stream it anywhere. It's crazy. It's not available for streaming. Yeah,
unless you live in Russia.
Yeah. I don't know if I should tell them where we watched it.
Ross and I teleported.
It's highly nefarious. Yeah, we got to see it though.
But we got to see the movie.
And we probably loaded our computers up with deadly viruses.
Which is probably why we can't see any of you right now this moment.
Oh my goodness.
Something wicked with this computer comes.
There's something about this film. It's a Walt Disney production, and for some reason there are several Walt Disney films that are just impossible to see. Another one. Remember The Watcher in the Woods? Do you remember when that was out? Yeah, that's another one you can't find streaming anywhere. And I've never seen it. I've always wanted to see that film. Never got around to seeing it. But this is from a very strange period in Disney's development. Because as you recall, in the 1970s, you had all these, you were still seeing the Dean Jones comedies, and Herbie the Love Bug,
yeah,
Jodie Foster, and Kurt Russell, or is it Kurt Russell? Yeah, I always get Ken Russell.
Kurt Russell.
Yeah. Kurt Russell. That was Disney, and they were trying to kind of expand the market. You know what I mean? They thought that their live action was kind of getting tired. So they were trying to push into edgier territory. And you'll recall, like, there was a big deal when they did The Black Hole in 1979. Yep. And they kept pushing in different directions, but nothing was really quite hitting. They're all a lot of, I don't even know if they were near misses, but they tried things like, I jotted a couple of them down. There was The Black Hole. There was The Watcher in the Woods, which was a horror movie with Bette Davis. There was Tron, which was
1982. That came out.
Yeah, which didn't seem like a Disney movie. The Black Cauldron, you remember that animated film that went pretty dark?
I don't remember that one, Ross.
Yeah, that was 85.
Okay.
And Return to Oz, which is a really off-the-wall Wizard of Oz sequel that also went very dark in 1985. And they started pushing into like an adult market. They created Touchstone Pictures. Remember, they were trying to separate their themselves from the Disney brand, so they could do these more adult-oriented pictures, or more mature-oriented pictures. And they did like Danny DeVito comedies and stuff. Shelley Long and
Shelley Long. Oh my God.
Splash was a big hit for them through that. Down and Out in Beverly Hills was their first R-rated feature. The Paul Mazursky movie. So they were and Dragon Slayer. Remember Dragon Slayer was a co-production between, that was actually before, it was before this one, but after The Black Hole. It was a co-production with, distributed with Paramount at the time. But, remember that one had, amputations or dismemberment, and fiery immolations and all kinds of really edgy stuff that Disney would not really have,
approved of.
But once again, as always, compared to now, I mean, now they've got, Disney bought Paramount, right? It was a Paramount or 20th Century Fox. Which one did they buy?
It was Paramount, I think.
No, 20th
Century Fox. It was
So they gobbled up 20th Century Fox. So now they've got Alien. They're doing Alien movies, and they're doing
Star Wars.
Well, Star Wars, and then now Deadpool is like a big Marvel.
Yeah.
So now they're doing R-rated. They're F-bombs all over the place. I doubt that. Walt Disney liked to make money as much as the next guy, but he was all into keeping things family oriented. Exactly. So I think that Walt is probably spinning in the grave right now, despite the fact that Disney owns the world. So, anyway, so that's where we are with Something Wicked. It was part of that whole run of Disney trying to break out of its stereotype, and yet ironically, ironically, they went and reined it back in because it got too edgy. And they wanted it to be more family friendly. So we have kind of a schizophrenic vision between the director and what the studio ultimately wanted.
You know what I thought was interesting too was, I mean, this was a Ray Bradbury novel. I mean, Ray Bradbury had pitched this as wanting to do this as a film, and I guess this was back in the 1950s. And I guess he had this envisionment of actually having this be like a wonderful dance film or musical with Gene Kelly. And this was something that he wanted him to be a big part of. And I guess he had a problem getting backers, and Kelly was like totally on board with it. And then what happened was, I think he decided to change gears, and then he went with make it into a novel. I guess this whole thing started around 1952, and by 58 he was trying to, get the backing for the film. That didn't work. So then what he did was he went with the novelization. And then the other thing was, I guess he took elements from another story that he had done and combined it with this story. And that was, I'm trying to think of what that was called.
The Black Ferris.
Yes, the Black Ferris.
Yeah, as in Ferris wheel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know whether or not it was ever intended to be a musical, but it was definitely Gene Kelly he approached. It would be very interesting to see this as a musical. I wonder if it would have gone like a Willy Wonka route. I wonder if Gene Kelly was actually going to be in it, or if he was just going to produce it. But whatever it was, they couldn't get the studio to back the project. So yeah, Ray Bradbury wrote up a treatment for this. It was like an 80-page treatment or something. The studios rejected it. So he got frustrated and started writing the novel. Which I think it was in the early 60s when he wrote it. Was it 62?
62, yeah.
62. And
he dedicated the novel to Gene Kelly.
Did he really? I forgot. But it's something that's been, it was so long for the novel to come into being. And then after that, it was so long for the film adaptation to come from the novel. But the whole while, there's been stuff in progress. You know what I mean? It was like almost nonstop. They've been trying to get this thing on the screen. I did want to say that, it's worth considering what the circus would have meant to people in Bradbury's time. It's hard for us to conceive now in the 21st century, but even when we were kids, the traveling circuses would come to town, and there was still a little bit of old, classic Americana feel to the not the big Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey, but the scary circuses that would come where they pitch the tent with the elephants and they'd have the scary clowns. And there's a real sense that, there was going to be, serious injury and death.
Pandemonium
and creepy clowns, really up close. And you had the smell of the elephants and the peanuts. And yeah, but anyway, back then, this is before not only the internet, but before television, and in the Depression era, everybody wanted to run away and join the circus. It had a magical quality. Kids wanted to run away and join the circus. So it's very interesting that in these fantasy stories, like Something Wicked This Way Comes, that they become kind of symbols of escape or dreams, because Bradbury's not the only one to do it. Remember, we did Seven Faces of Dr. Lowe.
Sure.
With Tony Randall.
That's when you did the great reveal.
Right. But that was based on a book too. And Charles Finney wrote The Circus of Dr. Lowe in the 1930s, 35, I think. And again, it would make a very interesting double feature as films to show Seven Faces of Dr. Lowe and do Something Wicked, because it was also mirroring the dreams and the disappointment and the repression of the people in the town, and it was all reflected in the weird sideshows and things. So anyway, so the circus is as a dream, wonders, reflections of people's ambitions and disappointments, but.
Well, and those are the magical qualities of the circus. And that's something I think that we really didn't have the opportunity to experience so much with our youth. To your point, we were kind of like on the edge of traveling circuses coming through. I actually remember behind the Phillipsburg Mall, they actually
Yeah.
they set up a circus that came through there, but it was something that you heard about, and something that we heard about in episodic television that we would watch like in the 50s or the 60s, or even the movies,
Right.
even with the 70s. But it was something that was really just kind of like fading away.
It
That's
was.
why when even you would hear about, clowns being evil and scary, for me, I really never understood that, because it's like when I would see a clown, to me, a clown was something that would make you laugh and something that was supposed to be funny. And, I didn't have those recollections. But to your point about what you just, described and everything, there is that aura, that mysticism that surrounded the circuses, and the, I don't know, it's almost like a, kind of a legend in its own right, as it would go from town to town. And this movie really kind of touches upon that, and also the things that we probably would yearn for and we want and can't really have, and maybe lose sight of, as being what is important and what's not important, and the things that we think that are important, and the sacrifices that we would make in order to have those things that are what we think are important, and then when we actually have them, find out that they're really not, because we're sacrificing so much more than that. And it really, really is a very thought-provoking film on many levels, as it delves into all of that, and it does it from a very subtle in the beginning, but as the film progresses, it begins to unravel, and you begin to find out how it all interlinks. And this is really dealing with an isolated town too. It's like a small town that just
Mhm.
everybody knows everybody, and everybody knows, everyone's wants and, desires, as well as what folks are, what they've maybe have lost, and where they are in their lives. And then, of course, it's like the forbidden fruit being offered, and what is the price you pay for taking that, right? And that's
Yeah.
really what it's dealing with.
Oh, absolutely. And you saying that the circus not playing like as big a role in our lives, that's true. But I very much experienced the anxiety that circus was provoking,
Yeah.
because the Clyde Beatty Cole Circus used to come to Lower or Upper Hackett's Park, and they pitched the tent with the elephants, and you get in there, and it would be like a very close space, and then if there was any fire or big cats or anything like that, wild animals, it was really a kind of a scary thing. And yes, the clowns were horrifying. You were close enough to see the grease paint, and the guys, were obviously all unsavory characters. And another time we went to a circus in New York, I remember it was like on 42nd Street or something. It was like some back room, second floor circus. my stepfather took me in there. That was the scariest circus I ever went to in my life.
Herb took you to that? I was
Yeah, it was like
I was waiting to say that it was your dad, because I mean
yeah,
it would have been
no,
right in lineman with the Omega Man.
Omega Man. Yeah, that was a very dad thing to do. You're right. Yeah, I think there must have been something about men of that generation. I don't know. You're gonna like scare the hell out of your kids.
Next time I see Herb, I'm gonna ask him, when are you going to the circus?
Yeah, yeah. But
Hey,
yeah, good.
real quick, I just want to say I see that Colin is out there. I'm actually I'm tapping into the iPhone, because it's giving me the identities of our admirers that are tuning in. So Colin had posted and said, "Whoops, now the post is hidden. Something hidden this way comes." I can't. There it goes. Life was better overall before the net, saying that there would be no show without it. Anyway,
Yeah,
Colin is joining us from the UK. Welcome, Colin. Good to see you out there.
it's certainly a trade-off. Yeah.
Yeah. Christian is joining us from Canada. He said
Hey, Christian.
he's here, and he said the Fun House.
The fun house, exactly. How many times have we gone into a terrifying fun house? What's fun about the fun house?
Except that it terrifies you.
Yeah, it is transformative. It does take you out of reality. But as you say now about these small Midwestern towns, they're always like have these idyllic reputations and everything. But yeah, so often in movies and in books and stories, you find out about the underbelly of the town. It's kind of like pre-David Lynch, where you see the white picket fences and the perfect, manicured lawns and everything. But then everybody has their own neuroses and disappointments and anxieties and dramas, that unfold with their families and with the neighbors. Yeah, so there's a lot going on with these things. And yeah, Bradbury kind of idealized his, he tried to recapture basically his childhood experiences in Illinois. I guess it was Waukegan,
Yes.
Illinois.
Right.
And he fictionalized it as Greentown. And he wrote several books and stories that involve Greentown, Illinois. And this is one of the books. Dandelion Wine was another one. And then late in life, he wrote a sequel to Dandelion Wine, which he claimed was actually part of the same book, but the publishers chopped it in half. They said, we have to end it here, keep it short, and we'll do the other one later. And then they never did it. So late in life, he published the second half, and it became something like, Farewell Summer was the title. Oh, wait, what's this here?
So William Graff just commented, he said, the last time I saw Ray Bradbury, he again told the story of meeting Mr. Electrico at the Carnival of Sideshow back in 1932. I always think of Ray when I watch something wicked. It's his own story.
Yeah. Do you know that story?
I did not know that story.
Yeah. He's, Jack Benny was from there too. Okay. Yeah. He went to the circus, the carnival or what have you there when he was a kid. I think he was like 11. And there was Mr. Electrico was this electric act. There's all electricity and it would, emanate from his body, and he had an electric sword and what have you. And, he's transfixed as an 11-year-old, and Electrico selected him and dubbed him with an electric sword. And he said, you shall live forever. And Bradbury was just so blown away by this experience that he went home and he just started writing. Wow. And he claims he never stopped writing since. That was the chief impetus for him to become a writer. It was that fantastical experience at the circus with Mr. Electrico.
That's definitely a sliding door moment. You imagine being so influenced by something like that? Wow.
Yeah, but you see how for us it was kind of like Star Wars and things like that. But they didn't have stuff like that back then. It's so you go to to have a world of wonders open up in front of you there like that, right up close and personal. When you don't even have a TV set at home.
Yeah, exactly. But to have that influence, and then elements of that really comes through in the film. I did not know that story though, so that's really cool. Thanks for sharing that, Bill.
Yeah. So and they're a little sinister, the circuses, and so you have Cougar and Dark's Pandemonium Shadow Show. I don't know if they called it that in the movie, but in the book, that's what they called it.
Well, and here's the other thing too, in regards to the show's called Mr. Dark's Pandemonium Carnival. Pandemonium, meaning was the capital city where Lucifer held court. So pandemonium. So there's that connection with that, which I thought was interesting.
And he's certainly a kind of a
from Milton,
demonic figure. Yeah.
Yep.
In Faust, he gives his soul, trades his soul for fulfillment of experience, fulfillment of his knowledge, and it's the same thing. People kind of in this story kind of trade their essence, their souls, if you will, for their dreams.
Right.
And there's a nasty, just like with Faust, there's a nasty condition attached to it. It's kind of like it's Halloween month last month, so I was reading a lot of ghost stories, and I revisited The Monkey's Paw by W.W. Jacobs. And I don't know if it's a classic ghost story, but it's one of those things where you get 3 wishes when you wish on the monkey's paw, like a rabbit's foot. But yeah, and the wish, of course, you it's like the genie, you always
you genie in the bottle.
Yeah. So you get the 3 wishes, but then there's always kind of a nasty kickback. You get what you want, your life's desire, and then something awful happens.
Well, careful what you ask for, you just might get it.
Exactly. And that's what this is. It's like you get your restored youth, or you get what have you. You can get your body reconstituted if you lost a limb or something like that. But there's a catch.
Right.
So.
And that's what plays out in this film with each of the individuals within the town that succumbs to getting their wish, or getting what they believe would be their wish that would create happiness for them, which really doesn't. And essentially it enslaves them on a certain level.
Exactly. Yeah. So I actually read the book
Yeah.
maybe.
Hey, Jack, thanks for joining us. And Jack Daly said the cheese tax.
I I read it. I don't know. I wanted to read it for such a long time, but I read it maybe 15 years ago. The book, and it's Stephen King calls it like the greatest horror story he ever read, and so many people were influenced by it. Neil Gaiman, talked about the influence on him. Clive Barker said it was one of the greatest stories of good and evil. It was like number 4 on his list of great stories of good and evil.
Wow.
I read the book, and it's a great idea, and I love the whole surreal aspect of it and the themes that we talked about. But to tell you the truth, I don't think it's a very well written book. And I might be in the minority here, but it's so overwritten. Maybe it's because Bradbury loved it so much and had written it so many times as treatments for the screenplay and as stories, and finally sat down and wrote the book. But it's one of those things where never use one adjective or one simile or one metaphor when you can use like 7. So it's so purple. The prose is so purple in the book, and people might disagree with me, but something like you think about Martian Chronicles, or all of his little collections of stories or novels. They're very slender. Um, like 200-page books, maybe 250 pages. So when he comes along and writes something wicked, it just feels so padded to me. And maybe I was in a bad mood when I read it. I know a lot of people love the book, but I don't know.
Yeah, see, I have to go back and read the book, and I haven't had the opportunity to do that. So
Yeah.
I probably should have taken the opportunity to do it, considering how much time we've put off on doing this episode. But unfortunately,
that's just my criticism of it. I would love to do Fahrenheit 451 at some point. I never read that book.
No, we'll have to go back and do that.
Yeah.
A couple things. I want to say hi to Marianne Fody. She's watching. Marianne, welcome. Thanks for being out there. William also commented. He said, "What do you guys think about Jason Robards' performance? I think it's heartbreakingly brilliant. His advantage made it more poignant in the book than I think." Mm-hmm. Randy also, I was trying to get his comment. He said Bradbury wrote the novel partly to confront his own childhood fears. Let's see that. Colin is commenting and saying, before the end of the show, could we have a close-up of your Enterprise, please, Roy? Already in the Star Trek.
Screw all those deep themes. Let me see the Enterprise.
Oh boy. And yeah, in regards to Jason Robards, interesting enough, Ross, Jason Robards, he's playing the old guy in this movie. He's like 58, 59 years old. He's like our age.
Yeah. Even young. Maybe it's in the book he's younger. He's only like 53 or 54 or something. It's like, oh, my dad's so over the hill. But how it is, though, when you are a boy, people that are 53 seem like they're ancient. So
no, it's true, because I even remember with when Ryan was young, was little. I mean, he was like, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7, and there was a couple that had, their son, and they were, older. They were like probably like, in their early 50s. You know what I mean? But it's just that, yeah. So there's that, and that's the piece that Charles Holloway is dealing with. Jason Robards' character, he's dealing with. He makes the comment. He said that he, about wanting to live forever, and he's very conscious of his age. He's conscious of his heart having the issues.
He's not in the best of health, right?
Not in the best of health. He has a young son that's what I think he's 12 or 13, somewhere around that age. The two boys are like literally like a minute apart, and in age. And so he's dealing with that. He's dealing with the issue that had occurred when his son was in a stream, or actually in a lake, and he almost drowned, and he couldn't save him because he didn't know how to swim, and he was encapsulated by his fear. And then what happened was his best friend, or his son's best friend's father, had actually saved him, and he has the regret and the guilt of not coming through for his son, and it's haunting him, and also causing a form, like a separation between him and his son on a certain level. So it's dealing with that, and that's tapping into his want for wanting to be revitalized, to have the youth, in order to feel that he can create that closer bond with his son. But of course, there's more to it than that, which the film really delves into as it progresses. But to answer William's question about his performance, I thought Jason Robards was an excellent actor, and I think he handled the part very, very well. I mean, he as a performer, as an artist, truly amazing. I think it was one of 24 actors that pretty much, in regards to awards, I mean, he's had an Academy Award, he's had a Tony Award, he's had the Emmy Awards. I mean, he's just, he's knocked it out of the park with all of his, performances. And sadly, he was only 78 years old when he passed, too. I thought he was a lot older. And I'm going to digress for 1 second, Ross. Do you remember the 1983 film? Actually, 1980. I think it came out in 83, but it was 1983, 84, but I think it was 83. Do you remember The Day After?
Yes. Yeah. Wasn't it for television?
It was for TV. They did a performance. In fact,
absolutely. Everybody remembers that saw it,
Right. And that was done by the director of Star Trek II.
Oh, Nicholas Meyer. Right.
Nicholas Meyer. Yeah.
Right.
And there Jason Robards was one of the stars in that film. And
all-star cast. Well, yeah, that was before the big premium cable explosion. So everybody, when it's a television event, it was a television event. Everybody watched that.
Yeah.
And of course it was about, nuclear
Holocaust
threat. Yeah. Nuclear Holocaust. Right. So it was a serious subject and everybody wanted to be involved with it and everybody watched it. So
yeah.
Exactly. He had a lot of memorable roles. A lot of good.
He did. Hey, Bill. Bill's out there. Thanks for joining us, Bill.
And of course, Jonathan Pryce as Mr. Dark was not a familiar face
at the time,
but I always remembered him from that role.
Yes.
So every time he would turn up in something else, I would know the name. Everything just was so indelible back then for everything. It just sunk into my brain. I don't remember anything now, but I remember everything from the 1980s. So yeah, Jonathan Pryce has been around forever. He was in Brazil. Everybody remembers Brazil, and he just won his first Oscar for The Two Popes.
Oh, okay.
With Anthony Hopkins. Yeah.
Or
he was nominated for his first Oscar. He didn't win. I'm sorry. Nominated for his first Oscar. Hopkins won though for that.
Did he?
Yeah. And he was in Game of Thrones, which I saw a few episodes of it. I wasn't a real big Game of Thrones guy, but Brazil.
I was going to say in regards to Jonathan Pryce, he was only 34 when he did this movie. This film was actually shot in 1981, and there was they actually had to come back to do some reshoots on it because of the delays and some of the things that you were talking about that pretty much this film went through. But he was a member of the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts, won Tony Awards. He was
in Miss Saigon. I remember it was a big deal because he played an Asian character. So, and of course, he's a white European. So, and then this, was before.
Right.
I mean, this is a long-standing thing anyway, but it was a big deal that they made out of him having such a prominent role. But he was decorated
back in 1990 when he did that.
And he was acclaimed for the role. But I remember that made a lot of news.
And then also his, I think he won the, what was it? Oh my goodness, Sir Laurence Olivier Award for his performance in Hamlet, and that was in 1980. So he had that, as well as he actually was, I guess, knighted too, which I just came across. I didn't realize that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
he was in The Crown too. The Netflix series. He was the last actor to play Prince Philip, and I must say he's not a very believable Prince Philip. He just doesn't have the stature to be the Iron Duke, but he's an excellent actor. I don't want to take anything away from. I'm not taking anything away from it.
Well, I love one of his famous quotes. "I'm not a star. I'm an actor. There's a difference," and there really is a difference with that. So it's very, very true.
But it's a great character, this Mr. Dark. And he was some of the other names they bandied around. I love the fact that two other actors they considered. Peter O'Toole was one of them. And he would have been very good, but it would have been a very different movie, and it would have skewed the film. I think it would have been too much Peter O'Toole. And the other actor was Christopher Lee, which is really a missed opportunity. He would have been fabulous as Mr. Dark. But yeah, I think Jonathan Pryce was excellent in the role.
Well, one thing I want to go back to, that since you're talking about alternatives for playing this role of Mr. Dark, Christopher Lee, I think, was a missed opportunity. Yeah, he would have been amazing in that role. In regards to, well, actually, before I jump on that, I'm seeing Bill's posting. He said, the engineer in Miss Saigon is actually a mixed race role. Still, there was controversy. Yeah.
Okay. I never saw Miss Saigon, so I just remember reading about it. I think the first time I read about it was in, I don't know if it was Q Magazine or New York Magazine or whatever they called it back then. But,
no, thanks for sharing that, Bill. Yeah. BB Besh was in the day after. That's right. Yep, exactly. Thanks for sharing that, Jack. One of the things I was going to say is in regards to Jason Robards' character, Charles Halloway. Darren McGavin was a consideration. Dick Van Dyke, Dean Jones. Dean Jones had been doing the Disney movies, of course. Yeah. Walter Matthau, Jack Lemmon, James Garner, and Hal Holbrook were also other considerations.
Maybe Holbrook could have done it.
I can't see Dick Van Dyke doing the role, nor
no, I can't either. And I don't know about Dean Jones's range, really. but I think Robards was the way to go with that. In the book, he was the custodian at the library. I don't remember. In this movie, was he the librarian, or what did they say what he did at the library? Or did they?
Thought he was like, he wasn't the custodian in the movie. He was almost. I think he was more the librarian master, if there's even such a title. But yeah, he was in charge of the library, or
Yeah, it seemed like it. Yeah. Yeah.
And I loved his quotes back and forth, his quips back and forth with Mr. Dark. Is, Dark was trying to top him, Holloway, and pretty much belittle him that, he was just essentially caught up in the past. And then, he came back at him and he said, a person can really learn from the past, and he was just like right on point with him, even though it was very subtle.
Oh, yeah. Now, this would have been a very different movie had it been filmed back in the day. Back in 1955, Bradbury had pitched it to Gene Kelly, as you said, and the director who wanted to be involved even at that point was the director who ultimately made the movie, Jack Clayton. When you go back to the 80s, you realize that just how short history is, because anybody of consequence at that time was like born during came up through a golden age of filmmaking. Because Clayton wasn't all that old at the point that he made this. Was maybe 60 or something. I don't know, but he had come up through the British film system. So he worked with people like David Lean, and he worked with the Korda brothers. Like, he was involved with the Thief of Baghdad. He started out as a coffee boy, or a tea boy, I guess they called him. It's Britain. So he was a tea boy, and then he became an associate director, and then he became an assistant editor. So he learned the whole machinery of making movies well before he started directing films. And he only made something like 8 movies. But there would be great expanses of time between each film, and a lot of projects that would fall through. But he was very meticulous and very talented with the projects he ultimately tackled. These things are kind of revered by people who are like cineasts or filmmakers. Great directors all think that Jack Clayton was really something else. But all kinds of stuff happened that kind of prevented this film from getting made. We had at the beginning, they couldn't get backing, when Gene Kelly was pushing it. Then by coincidence, this is years later, this is like 10 years later, Jack Clayton, the director, was having lunch with Kirk Douglas, and Ray Bradbury was having lunch with Kirk Douglas's son, Peter Douglas, totally independent. This was not like planned or anything. And both of them were talking about movies, and they said, "What would you like to really see made?" And both of them said, "Something Wicked This Way Comes." So it all kind of like came together. That both Douglases came home. They said, "Hey, I had lunch with so and so. Oh, it's funny. I had lunch with so and so. Let's make this movie." And it looked like it was going to be greenlit. They were going to do this thing. The studio backed it, and then what happened was there was a power struggle because the head of whatever studio it was ousted, and a new guy was put in place, and the new guy hated the old guy, and he scrubbed all his projects. It happens all the time. So again, it went into what do they call it, like development hell or whatever.
Hey Ross, why can't we all just get along?
I know. So it disappeared again. Years pass again, and finally Peter Douglas sells the rights to Disney. But he says, make it with Jack Clayton, because Clayton really wants to be involved with this. And Disney brings Clayton in. So all these years later, going all the way back to 1955 to 1981, when they started shooting this thing, it was all Jack Clayton, and he finally got to do this. So he executes his vision and makes it just the way he wants to do it. And Disney gives him carte blanche, and they look at it and they say, we can't show this movie. There's no way Walt Disney is distributing
one more derailment for the movie.
I know, it's
like it right up until the end, and the changes that they made and the additional scenes that they shot were done just literally right before the film was released.
Yeah.
I was very surprised to read that Kirk Douglas and Peter Douglas were involved with this film, and they had and I get, like, to your point, Kirk Douglas, I guess, back, had dropped out, and then Peter Douglas eventually did too. But to find out that they were, involved with these projects was pretty amazing.
Yeah. Disney is saying, "Oh, we got to get away from this. We don't want people looking at us as like a family film company. We got to be more adult and do it. Got to be a little edgier." And it's like, "Oh, too edgy, Jack. Too edgy. We got to reshoot everything."
Again, careful what you ask for. You just might get it. Something wicked. Disney comes.
Yeah, so they dropped scenes, and they reshot the special effects, and they redid the score, and they did all kinds of stuff to try.
And it cost them millions. And the other thing too is, when you were watching it, I don't know if you had done the research on the film, but I don't remember that. I mean, when we saw this again, this was like 41 years ago, back in the day, which blows my mind. And I remember seeing this in the East in Eric with Joe, again, your cousin Joe Metz.
Yeah.
But specifically the scenes where the spiders are coming after the kids, when you're looking at the boys, it's like, what the heck just happened? It feels like you're watching that show that's on Netflix right now with what is with the kids? I can't even think of the title of it.
Oh, Stranger Things.
It's like you're watching Stranger Things. Because it's like, if you look at the kids from Stranger Things from season 1 and then you watch them in season 4, it's like they've aged like 10 years. It's the same thing with this. It's like only like maybe a year went by, but still it's the same result. It's like, wait a minute, did they just be adults?
They all have 5 o'clock shadows, and they're smoking. Dead end kids. No, that's not it. But yeah, you're right. You can see that they get older and younger, older and younger, and the hair length changes, and all the stuff that happens when they shoot things a year or two apart. But because originally the effect that they had used for that scene either didn't come off, or Disney didn't like the way it, I'm not saying Walt Disney, the company Disney, the overlords, the suits didn't like the way it came.
Hold on, Ross. I'm just checking.
Oh, yeah. Like that's what they're gonna come get me for after this week. But anyway,
look out, Ross is talking Disney again.
For whatever reason, they decided to reshoot the scene with the spiders. Then there was supposedly a landmark CGI sequence that opened the movie. It was supposed to be the first really, sequence on that scale. It was going to be
never been done before.
And they cut it out of the movie. Where the circus train comes to town,
and the secret is it still had never been done before, because it didn't make it to the final print.
So Disney decided they didn't want to make history, I guess, and they took that out. So there's all kind. Oh, and they put on they put new narration under the opening scene. They did some stuff with the framing device with the kids running through the autumnal, forever, that forever childlike view of the of your town. You know what I
Right.
mean? It
Well,
was
it's like
kind of
the Waltons. It was like watching the
like the
Waltons.
Waltons, yeah, with a touch of the Spielbergian, vigor that you feel when you're a kid, and how you look back and it's all kind of romanticized, So they put some of that in there, but they kept the stuff with the lightning rod salesman from the book anyway. The movie was, I have to say, the movie's very close to. It's pretty close to the book, but there's just something about it that doesn't quite land, but I don't know, the book doesn't land either for me. It's a great idea, I love it, but it's like, I want to see Clayton's version of the movie. By coincidence, earlier in I don't want to keep talking forever, I'll just say, by coincidence, earlier in the month, Halloween month, I had just watched for the first time The Innocents, which is innocent with plural. It's not innocence like with the CE at the end, but innocence with the TS at the end. Jack Clayton directed this in the 60s, and it's an adaptation of Henry James' Turn of the Screw, which is a ghost story. A governess in an isolated house with two kids, and are the ghosts real, or are they manifestations? Is it in her head, kind of thing? Deborah Carr plays the governess, and the ghosts. One of them is Peter Wingard, Clytus from
yes,
Flash Gordon.
Yeah,
he's got maybe 2 minutes screen time in the movie, but he's one of the ghosts, and you could totally see, you can totally imagine what he would have done had they given him free reign and done something wicked in his style. It would have been more measured, it would have been a slower pace, I think, but it could have had a real eerie quality to it.
Yes, Jason King.
Exactly.
Yep, exactly. I wanted to go back to Ross. You were talking about the narrator too. Arthur Hill was the narrator.
Yeah, I saw
playing
that.
the older son. And interesting enough, folks from Sci-Fi would maybe remember Arthur Hill. He was he was one of the lead scientists in the movie The Andromeda Strain.
Right.
Back that was done. And interesting enough, I was just watching an episode of Mission Impossible that he had done back from '66. But yeah, a character actor that you would see a lot of films. And I didn't recognize his voice immediately, but then was reminded when I was going through the credits. So yeah,
there were a lot of TV familiar actors, character actors in the movie as in the supporting parts.
Royal Dano, he did a lot of stuff. New York. He actually was an actor that was in a Lost in Space episode. The title, I think, was first season, The Lost Civilization. So definitely check that out. And he did a lot of episodic television as well, too.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you had, what was her name? Miss, the school teacher, Miss Foley.
Yes, Miss Foley. She was
Mary Grace Canfield. Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
She had a regular part on Green Acres.
Yes.
And I mean, they may have done this on purpose, because they also had Floyd the Barber from the Andy Griffith Show.
Yep. Absolutely.
Jack Dodson as Dr. Douglas. So these are like iconic figures of small town America or rural America, and they're putting them in this movie. So they show up with this accumulated kind of baggage or significance, to kind of bring this green town to life, and to give you that kind of depth of experience. It's like, oh yeah, this is the town that Andy Griffith was in, or this is the town with Green Acres. But wait a minute, here's an evil circus showing up. Yeah.
I love the quote too. By the prickling of my thumbs, something wicked this way comes.
By the pricking,
and
yes.
From Macbeth, Shakespeare, Scene 4, Act 1, spoken by the Sycamore Witch. But then there's a quote or a notation that may not have technically been a Shakespeare quote. Some experts believe that it actually came from the writings of Thomas Middleton, who was a playwright. And interesting enough, he was known for his works of the play The Changeling, which was very successful. There's been a lot of variations of that. The movie The Changeling with, what was it, George C. Scott. There's also the Star Trek episode too, The Changeling. So again, all roads lead to Star Trek with that.
Yeah, changelings were a thing. In
Yeah.
Midsummer Night's Dream, they were saying how they made some remark about a changeling in there also. But you know, Shakespeare ripped off a lot of stuff from a lot of people. He was like the James Horner of playwrights.
Well, speaking of music, and we'll jump into that. I mean, right from the get go, talking about, and I love James Horner's music, but I thought I was watching Star Wars for a moment. And interesting enough, Shari and I were talking about that. She picked up on it immediately too. But we'll get to that when we talk about music and everything.
And that's not the bash Shakespeare. I think, you know, he's a great playwright, but he took, you know, he obviously took things from a lot of people. Yeah.
Williams said, if I recall correctly, Something Wicked was also the last project that filmed on Disney's famous backlot town, home of Flubber, Shaggy Dog, and Bedknobs and Broomsticks. After that, it was torn down. Now, they shot this film, and I think you're right about that, William, because they shot this in, I believe, in Connecticut, and then Vermont. I'm sorry, it was in the Northeast. They filmed it in Vermont, but they also filmed it on the Disney Ranch that you're referencing too.
Yeah.
Shari also commented and said, the actor who amazed me was the man who played the man with no arm and no leg.
Yeah.
That actor actually was involved in a motorcycle accident in 1973. So that was real. And he actually done performances in episodic television prior to this film, and prior to his accident, I should say, too.
Yeah, that I was wondering about that myself, because I didn't know who the actor was, but I knew he had to be, you know, it was before they would do things with the green screen where they would, you know, like the Forrest Gump kind of thing, where they could do that with Lieutenant Dan, you know, where they could have him. Yeah. So I figured it had to be somebody who really was armless. It was like Harold Russell in Best Years of Our Lives, won a couple of Oscars for that part. He was a veteran of World War II, and he had the hooks for hands. He had, so he, you know, they got a genuine war vet to play the part, and he was just so good in it. It was a very moving movie. But they gave him 2 Oscars. They gave him one for Best Supporting Actor, and they gave him another one for his, his courage for overcoming his misfortune and his injuries during the war, and being able to come back and provide this, give this inspiration to these vets, you know, so many of which, experience such horrific things.
Yeah.
And there's so much sacrifice. So he had 2 Oscars, and it was the only movie he ever made for decades. And then he came back and he was a bartender I think it was in a Tom Cruise movie. I'm not sure. Was it all the right moves, or I don't know? He came back,
or was that Cocktail?
No, it was before that.
Okay.
But yeah. I guess I think he fell in hard times, had to sell one of his Oscars, and I don't know. Anyway,
the actor that was involved in this, his name was James Stacy. He was the one that actually did not have an arm and a leg that did this film, and he played the barber.
I'm probably, that was a big digression for me. So do we know anything else about him? Did he do anything else?
He did. I mean, he was involved in, like I said, he did episodic television. This was not his only stint, and he had been acting. I remember reading that he was also in a, just as a reference, like a Gunsmoke episode. He did television in the 1980s as well. He's since sadly passed away, though.
Well, it's quite a while ago. Yeah. 40 years.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But the accident occurred in, like I said, in the early 70s, and it was a serious motorcycle accident. And his girlfriend, I think, was sadly had died as a result of that accident too. So, yeah. But
Clayton had a serious stroke between his previous film was The Great Gatsby, and I guess it knocked him out of commission kind of for 5 years. He for a while he couldn't speak, but he came back and did this film.
He was 6, like you said, in regards to his age, he was about 60 years old when he directed this movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think he might have done 1 or 2 after this also. So, but so he did eight movies, I think I counted, as director. You know, he did a lot of movies as editor and as associate director, or assistant director, I should say, and as producer. He was involved with Uh, you would recognize he was in Moulin Rouge. He produced Moulin Rouge, and there was another one around that time, another big movie that he was involved in. Not as a director, though. Yeah. No, not the Moulin Rouge with Nicole Kidman. I'm sorry, the one with Jose Ferrer back in the day, the real one from the 50s. Sorry,
not the imitation, not to be confused.
I forgot. There's pop culture in the present, in recent decades.
It's all good.
It happens all the time, folks. Sorry.
No. And actually, I was going to try to share the screen if I can. The computer's running amok here, but
yeah,
just to throw some slides up. There we go. The movie poster. Yeah, and there's Jason Robards, Charles Holloway, Jonathan Bryce as Mr. Dark.
Yeah.
And we forgot to talk about Diane Ladd.
Oh, Diane Ladd. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
3-time Academy Award nominee and mother of Laura Dern.
Laura Dern, married to Bruce Dern. Yeah. Back in the day.
She was, Diane Ladd was married to Bruce Dern. You're right.
Yeah. Hold on. I'm trying to see who commented on this. I'm just, again, having some computer issues here.
Oh, Beat the Devil was the other movie that he produced. The one with Humphrey Bogart and Robert Morley and Peter Lorre.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Thanks
for sharing that, Christian. Christian said James Stacy was a TV. Yeah, he was a TV star before his accident in a Western TV series. Hi, Chef Pro. And he was also on Gunsmoke too. He did. William said we call it the Zsa Zsa Gabor Moulin Rouge Ross.
The one with Zsa Zsa. Peter Cushing is in it too. He turns up for a moment in that Moulin Rouge.
There's Royal Dano.
Yeah.
And then Vidal Peterson is Will Holloway.
So did the kids go on to anything? I didn't look up Vidal Peters. I don't know if he's
Vidal Peterson did a Star Trek. I believe he did a Star Trek Deep Space Nine episode. So there's a Star Trek connection there. The other child, Arthur Hill, was the adult Will narrator. I was talking about him before. Sean Carson is Jim Nightshade. I didn't see anything in regards to him. I may have missed. And there's Mary Grace Canfield as Miss Foley. We were talking about her.
Right. From Green Acres.
From Green Acres, and then the young Miss Foley. Okay. The Virginian. Yep. There we go.
What's interesting is also that of the two kid actors, the brunette was actually blonde in real life, and the blonde was actually brunette.
Yeah.
But they felt that they fit the other roles better, and so they colored their hair.
Right.
Dyed their hair.
And then we'll come back to that. Yeah.
Oh, and we forgot Pam Grier.
I was going to ask you, what did you think about Pam Grier?
Talk about luxury casting. Pam Grier is the Dust Witch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did not realize. Did you know that was her?
I knew because I remembered having seen it back in '83. But that's the only reason I would have known, because she has the shroud over her for a lot of it. And
I had no clue, Ross. When I saw it, I was like, really? I was like, wow.
Yeah, because she was really big in the early 70s, but in the 70s, blaxploitation films like Coffee and Foxy Brown, and she was always in these chained women movies, women in prison, and then she kind of dropped out. You didn't see her so much, and then Quentin Tarantino made Jackie Brown. Wrote it specifically for her, and she had that career resurgence. But that was after Something Wicked, so this was really, a plum feature for her, even though she had a small part in it. It was a plum film for her to be in.
Yeah, no, it definitely was. And with that said, Randy's commenting and saying, major respect to Shari for jumping in with, "Hey guys, your wife here. That's the ultimate I'm watching you power move in any live chat."
Yeah, we kept it clean tonight.
Even with Jackie Brown.
No shower scenes in this movie.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah.
Something wicked this way comes.
Although that the barber fantasy, the barber who was into the women,
Oh my goodness.
the Italian barber who had the what did they make him into? They made him into some kind of like Bacchus figure or something, or
Yeah.
Pan or something.
And it was interesting too, the dwarf that actually chases the boys out and says, you got to be, you got to wait 10 years.
Yeah.
I didn't look him up, but he actually, all roads lead to Sci-Fi in that, because he was actually, if you remember the Sci-Fi morning show, Jason, a Star Command, he actually was cast in an episode with Julie Newmar, who was playing this like evil witch of this planet, and he was like her accomplice, and I hadn't seen him since those episodes, so I thought that was pretty interesting. So if anybody's Jason's a Star Command,
but again, this is another one of these things where you realize how short history is, because he was in the Todd Browning cult classic Freaks back in the 1930s, and this is
wow.
this is about this is another creepy circus movie. But he was in that, and his last movie was he played Master in Beyond Thunderdome, Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome.
Oh, okay.
Master Blaster. He was the master. So it really is something. I guess that is like a 50-year career he had.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. Sherry got a laugh out of that, by the way. Yeah. So did you enjoy this movie, Ross, as much as you did the first time you saw it?
Yeah, but that's to say, even when I saw it the first time, I was a little bit, I didn't dislike it. I was a little disappointed. I wanted a little more from it because I was really anticipating it. I was really looking forward to seeing there was a little Beethoven in there, which was fun. When they have the march down the street of the town and they're playing that funeral march.
Yep.
When they're looking for the kids, it's the funeral march from Beethoven's Eroica Symphony.
Only you, Ross.
Very rustily played by a circus band.
It's the search party,
yeah.
not the band party. It would be interesting to see, and I know you touched upon this earlier. It would be very interesting to see what the original concept of this movie would have been without those changes. And I'm sure that doesn't exist. I didn't come across anything that it did, but it would be interesting to see those deleted scenes and how it would have turned out. I don't know. I mean, again, they ran this by a test audience, so of course, the test audience essentially cost them several $1 million because they had to re-edit the film, add those additional sequences, cut sequences, add the narration, new effects. So all in all, it really kind of put it into a different direction. But I don't know. It would be very it would be cool if some of that would kind of surface.
Well, you know what they say, Roy, the masses are asses. So they just didn't pick up on like the atmosphere, the creepy atmosphere that he was trying to. They're like, when's something going to happen? And
right.
And knowing Walt Disney, their practices, they probably don't put a lot of the extra material on the home video when it existed. I don't think it's currently available. It might only be available. I might be telling tales out of school here, but I think it's only available in the secondhand market right now as far as buying it. And on the bonus features on your DVD or what have you, they sometimes have the deleted stuff, and I don't think that that's going to be on there.
No, I don't think so either.
Because it seems like they just kind of killed that. And well, you know why? One of the reasons I wonder if they want to remake it, and that might be why they're suppressing it. I'm not sure. But when you want to build interest in it by having the original one,
I would think so. I mean, I think for us, because we grew up with it, I think the nostalgia effect. But I think as far as folks that maybe would be watching it for the first time today, they probably wouldn't. I don't know. That's a good question. I mean,
everything gets spoiled anyway before it opens anymore. They tell you the whole thing on the internet, so why wouldn't
No, that's true.
Show the 1983 movie. I don't know. Anyway, it's one of those things where they were kicking it around, I think, and talking about remaking it, but it just hasn't happened. Now watch, there'll be a limited series on Disney Plus with Ewan McGregor as Mr. Dark.
He would be good.
He could be good.
He would be very
It just
good.
kind of popped into my head.
Yeah, that was a good call, Ross. That was a good call. I don't know. In regards to some of these movies being remade, I mean, I don't know. Again, sometimes it's just better to let things just lay to rest and just enjoy what we have from them, enjoy the classics, so to speak. But it's so hard to wrap myself around that this movie is another, 1983, 41 years ago.
Yeah,
And we're not talking about a 1940s movie or a 50s movie now. We're talking about something that's from the freaking 80s. It's just, I don't know.
I know.
Every year that we do this show and more time goes by, it's just like, my God, before you know it, we're going to be saying 1980s was 50 years ago.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
what the heck?
I didn't ask you how did you like it?
I enjoyed it. I remember seeing this for the first time.
Hmm.
I I think it needed a little bit more of something wicked this way comes maybe. No pun intended. I I liked the deep meaning. I liked what it was representing and what it was really the message it was trying to put out there. So I
Mm.
I, I did enjoy that aspect of it, but I felt that it needed a little bit more of something, and I don't honestly know what that is. I
So
would,
basically the same thing I felt.
yeah. I mean, it was
I still
enjoyable,
enjoyed it. Yeah, yeah,
but it's just there's something lacking,
yeah. A little bit. Yeah.
just a tad. And I think maybe that's what the suits picked up on, but of course then they decide to go in a totally
Maybe
different
they
direction.
caused it. Maybe the suits caused it.
That could be. That very much well
Right.
could be.
But yeah, and we were so spoiled for choice back then with the movies. So we were never so terribly disappointed because everything we went to see was entertaining. We just,
Well, and
or this one wasn't good. The one we see tomorrow is going to be great.
exactly. I mean, it was the anticipation of, oh, what's playing on Friday. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
What are we going to see
exactly.
on Saturday? Oh,
Yeah,
this is going to be really cool. Okay, well, you know what? All right, well, such and such is going to be coming out the following week, or maybe in 2 weeks. Now it's like if you get a good movie like in within 6 months of each other, you're lucky. It's not the same. You're absolutely right. I mean, there was so much fun and I don't know, just with the anticipation of seeing the film. And even if you walked out and it wasn't to your expectation, you still had that moment of just watching it on the big screen and really just being like, awed by it. But now it's like that's really just, I don't know. It's I guess it's up to us to make it happen. So we really shouldn't complain. But at the same point in time, when you read what's actually being produced and being created, and then you hear the stories. I mean, we're fortunate enough to know writers and directors, and it's just that with Hollywood now, it's just like they don't want to take any chances. They don't want to do anything creative. They want to. It seems like they want to recycle a lot of the old material. And even if with that, if they decide they're going to recycle something that's old, considered old, it's got to be something that essentially has been played to a million times over and is like a guarantee. So there's just no artistic license being granted. There's no creativity being allowed. Nothing can be abstract. Nothing. It has to be very formulaic. And I guess I should get off my soapbox right now.
formulaic. Yeah,
So anyway,
well, chances. They don't want you to take chances. They want to have a guaranteed return
and I
of
get it. It,
millions
it
of
is a
dollars.
it is a
Yeah,
business. I
yeah,
totally understand. But you know what? It was a business back then too. You know what I mean? So
exactly,
it's like that
exactly.
aspect of it hasn't changed. The only thing that's changed is that things are more expensive.
Yeah,
But it really shouldn't impact the creative level. So
yeah,
that's why it's great that we can do the things we can do. We can sit on here and talk about stuff that we want to talk about, or if we want to, you know, Bill, I'm going to give you a plug right now. Bill Scarrato. I mean, Bill. I mean, he when Bill, he wrote The Troop, and you know what? We filmed it over a weekend, and we did that, about 6 years ago, and it was fun. And we went to the theater and we watched the episodes, and you know what? We laughed and we enjoyed it. Uh, Lou, I'm going to give you a shout out. I'm going to give you a plug. Lou just completed his second movie that he made. I was able to be part of that. And, again, being creative, having fun, and just, being able to just, tap into that whole process. And, you know, being able to share it, and it's just a way that at least we can enjoy ourselves and feel like, you know what, we don't have to succumb to what's just being presented on, I would say the big network, but now it's not the big network. It's all 500 stations that you can get on cable and everything, or, the internet. So anyway,
well, in order to be a success, you got to understand one thing, and that's that the shareholders are more important than the audience.
Yeah, I guess that's what it comes out.
Your quarterly, it's got to keep going up, 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 up.
Yeah.
And even as everybody gets laid off and and you leave a barren landscape in your wake, as long as the fat cats are getting their cigars.
We just went down the rabbit hole, Ross.
I know, maybe it's a little more pointed than I intended.
It's like when Kirk tells Scotty, I want you to go along with the landing party over to space station K7 and make sure that none of the crew gets into a fight. And then Scotty goes along and then he causes the fight.
Of course.
All roads lead to Star Trek, Ross.
I know it's totally unexpected of me to say
anyway,
something inappropriate.
I want to say hi to Heather. Hey, Heather. Heather's joining us from Canada. Heather is Warren's sister. Welcome, Heather. Good to see you out there. Anyway, as far as getting back on track, we should definitely talk about the musical composer. I will use plural with that because when this film started out, it wasn't actually James Horner from the very beginning. Yeah. It was another composer that was involved. And on that note, it was...
Georges Delerue, noted French composer, did a lot of scores for Francois Truffaut and a lot of Hollywood scores too. But apparently his original score was too dark for Disney's taste, so they threw it out and got James Horner to come in. And I don't quite understand, because his scores got, it's eerie also. It's no less eerie than I've heard. If you go to YouTube, I mean, I've got a recording of it here, but if you go to YouTube, they've got, re-recordings. They've got, extended suites of Delarue's music that was written for this movie. So you can compare for yourself to see whether Disney was right or not to chuck the score. But they brought in James Horner, who at that point was really taking off, because it wasn't that long after Star Trek II.
Yeah.
Which was a real breakthrough. He'd written scores before that. Broke in with Roger Corman, did several films for him, including Humanoids from the Deep and Battle Beyond the Stars. But Star Trek really, made him a major player. And throughout the 1980s, we saw a lot of good movies with great scores by Horner. Cocoon, Glory, Field of Dreams, and later Titanic. He won a couple Oscars for that, for original score and for co-writing the hit song. And Avatar. Is Avatar still the highest grossing movie of all time, or was that surpassed by an Avengers movie or something?
I am not sure. That's a very
in any case, Horner was a major player, and he had his faults. I'm always complaining about, I'm not the only one. I'm always talking about how he kind of borrows from other composers, which is to say he often rips things out wholesale and plugs them into his score from himself, but also from other noted classical music composers. Glory Braveheart was a big score of his. Apollo 13.
Sure.
One of my favorite Horner scores, Mask of Zorro. So anyway, he did 160 film and television scores, and tragically, his plane went down. He was a pilot, like Harrison Ford. He liked to pilot small plane, and it went down. He was 61 years old, and he died in 2015.
Wow,
so big loss for the movies. Yeah.
So
because those guys, you never know how long they're going to work. How much music we didn't get from James Horner.
Randy commented, the highest grossing film worldwide is James Cameron's Avatar 2009, which has earned approximately $2.92 billion at the global box office. Thanks for sharing, Randy. Appreciate that.
Wow. Take that, Marvel. Yeah. Yeah. Well, thanks, Randy, for doing our research for us. But yeah, so I mean, I miss him. I'm a
Yeah.
little embarrassed sometimes by his film scores because there's knowing this stuff so well. I'm a little embarrassed sometimes when certain passages show up, and it's like, oh, it's nice to know that James Horner was listening to Shostakovich's Fifth Symphony when he was writing the music for Troy.
And it was also nice to know that he was watching or listening to John Williams' Star Wars, because when there's one piece that it really sounded like the motif for Darth Vader coming through.
The Imperial March, yeah, the
Yeah.
theme there.
Oh.
Dun, 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 dun. But behind it, yeah, that at least I kind of dismissed that as kind of a similarity. I didn't feel like it was ripped right out, but behind in the counterpoint, the swirling woodwinds and everything, it's taken right out of Alexander Nevsky by Prokofiev. So while he's distracting everybody with the Darth Vader theme, what he's really doing is stealing from Prokofiev.
So that was just basically to throw everybody off, is what you're saying. That was the red herring.
I think just about every film composer since 1938 has stolen from Prokofiev's Alexander Nevsky anyway at some point.
That's hysterical.
Yeah, this was his least egregious theft film scores. I learned something about Horner just in the last week or two, which I didn't know. He was on the spectrum. He had Asperger's.
Oh.
Yeah. I didn't know that because there was always something about Horner, like in his interviews and the way he kind of related with people, that was like a little strange. And now I understand that he really lived through his music. This was like his way of kind of communicating.
Right.
His wife has kind of come out now and been pretty vocal about it and done interviews. And she said that this for him, the music was really the real world, and when he got out in the real world, he had a harder time kind of communicating with people.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So, but. He really knew how to use an orchestra. I think he's one of the. Well, it's hard to really make a definitive statement, but I would say he's like one of the top 3 composers of his time, kind of thing, maybe. Sure. But then that discounts people that lived longer from an older age. Right. like Elmer Bernstein and all those people were still working. But I mean, with John Williams and Jerry Goldsmith and James Horner was kind of like right below them, in my estimation. It's just that it's embarrassing because he steals so flagrantly. So, but they all do, I guess, to some extent. And the Baroque composers did too in classical music. It's not like anything new. You work quickly and you're writing a lot of music. You got to get it from somewhere. But anyway, God bless James Horner. Sorry he's gone. And I was happy to hear his. The worst movie ever. Yes, I did look that up not too long ago, Randy. For some reason, I have no idea why. I did look up the fact that. Oh, you know why? Because quite by accident, there was another movie that got mentioned on Facebook that said it was one of the greatest failures of all time. And I looked that up, and they said the only one to surpass it was worst movie ever made, as far as like lowest amount of money ever made by a movie.
Wow.
Where it had a showing. They showed it for a weekend or something. I think worst movie only got one showing. Oh, that's it. That's the film. There you go. Randy's on it. He's on it tonight.
He's kicking.
Yeah. Anyway, something wicked this way comes.
Something wicked this way comes now.
Yeah. Enjoyable to go back and revisit the 80s always.
Oh, of course. And if again, we always like to give a nod to Starlog magazine from back in the day in issue number 70. On the cover, Something Wicked This Way Comes, with Pam Grier that we were just talking about. So.
Oh, yeah.
And then, of course, with Space Hunter and Blue Thunder.
I was just thinking about Space Hunter today. Isn't that funny?
Wow. Maybe it's a sign, Ross. Maybe it's
I actually looked it up and I watched the trailer. I don't know why. You know why? Because there's another movie. Because the subtitle to Space Hunter is Adventures in the Forbidden Zone. And there was a cult movie called Forbidden Zone that I had never seen. And for some reason, it flew under my radar. But it's kind of like a mix between Pee-wee's Playhouse and Eraserhead.
Oh, God.
It was shot in the late 70s. I think they finally got into theaters in around 1980 as a midnight movie. And somehow it escaped my notice. But it's got Hervé Villechaize. It's got Danny Elfman's in it. Oingo Boingo. And and Joe Spinell, who
Just
played the villain in Star Crash,
sure.
among many other things. So it's this cult movie, and I've seen it now. I'm watching clips of it on YouTube for the first time today. It's insane. I can't believe this. I haven't heard of this movie. I haven't seen this movie, but I think I blacked it out because of Space Hunter. I thought it was Space Hunter.
And I'm sorry, what is the working title of it again?
It's called Forbidden Zone.
Forbidden Zone?
2 words. Yeah.
Maybe we should consider that.
Oh, I don't know. Are you talking about the one that was the 80s movie, or the one that's the midnight movie?
I don't know. We'll have to look.
Let's say the 80s movie, and then we'll do the midnight movie secretly.
Okay.
No, because the one that was Space Hunter, Adventures in the Forbidden Zone, was very much the kind of movie we would talk about here. But Forbidden Zone is the kind of movie that I would want to talk about here. So you can make your judgment based on that.
Randy, box office revenue can't measure the true worth of a cult classic. Roy's tie-dye sci-fi corner. If only that was true.
Yeah. It's an awful film, Ross. You know I'm gonna love it.
That's from Christian. Thanks for the warning, Christian. That says it all. And one thing we haven't done this in a while. We haven't done anything in a while. So with that said, our tribute to Walter Cronkite. That's the way it was. Now, the release date of this film was April 29th, 1983. Films that were released in April of 83 were, on April 1st, The Sword and the Stone. Flashdance was on the 15th of April. Lone Wolf McQuade, the 15th of April. And also, obviously, Something Wicked This Way Comes, and then The Hunger.
Now, what's that?
Did you see all those films, Ross?
I did, except for Lone Wolf McQuade. And I'm wondering now, however, with a caveat, is it Sword in the Stone or Sword in the Sorcerer?
No, it was Sword in the Stone.
What was that? It wasn't the animated one. The Disney animated one was much earlier.
Unless it was maybe it was a re-release? I don't know. Oh,
possibly. Because I did see Sword in the Stone re-released in the theater probably around that time. So yeah, I did see it then. Yeah, I was going to see all the Disney because
it was a reissue.
Yeah, I saw that. I actually saw it at the Whitehall Mall.
Oh wow! Okay.
Sword in the Stone on the big screen. Yeah, so Lone Wolf McQuade. It was that a Chuck Norris or something? Who did Lone Wolf McQuade?
I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the only one and I don't think I saw it. I may have seen it because we did see our share of Chuck Norris movies, but the others I did see. How about you?
No, Flashdance I saw.
Oh, what if
and Something Wicked, yeah, right. And what if you want?
You didn't see The Hunger?
I didn't see The Hunger.
Oh,
who was in that?
Catherine Deneuve, David Bowie, and Susan Sarandon.
Susan Sarandon, yep.
Yeah. With it was I think it was Tony Scott, Ridley Scott's brother.
Yep.
Yeah, beautifully filmed vampire movie.
I am surprised I didn't see Lone Wolf McQuade because I remember that being out in the theater, and I think Carradine was in that with him too, if I remember correctly.
There's a famous lesbian scene in The Hunger. To Leo Delibes' flower duet.
Only you, Ross. Oh, Barbara Carrera was in that too, Lone Wolf McQuade.
Oh, okay. I didn't see that one.
And Robert Beltran, All Roads Lead to Star Trek. He was in Star Trek Voyager. He played Chakotay. So there you go. But hey. And in regards to number one songs on that date, the number one song was Beat It by Michael Jackson in the US, and in the UK it was True by Spandau Ballet. So
good times.
Good times. No, that was 1974.
Dynamite.
Exactly. Speaking of which, John Amos just passed not too long ago.
Yes. Yeah, I thought he had passed a while ago. I was kind of amazed to see that. Yeah.
Randy said in Lone Wolf McQuade, he gets buried alive in his truck, then drinks a beer and drives out just like it's another Tuesday.
You know what? Maybe I did see that movie. but it had to be on cable. I don't think I saw that. Who knows, though? With my stepfather, I could have seen it. Who knows?
Man, Herb's getting the bad getting a bad
Yeah,
rap tonight.
we saw our share of Chuck Norris movies.
Chuck,
But
well, there was a Chuck Norris movie that came out in 88, 89. And in fact, the guy that played Non in Superman and Superman 2, he was one of the three villains. I can't think of the actor's name. Jack. He played
O'Halloran, yeah,
Jack Howard. Yeah, he was the villain in that.
the main villain, or
He
like
was
one
the
of the
main.
henchmen.
No, he was the main. He was the main
Really?
villain. I think in the Chuck Norris movie.
Wow.
And I think it came out in 88, 89, if I remember correctly. I'd have to look it up.
That's probably past my all of the Chuck Norris movies I saw. I think were probably up through high school.
Okay.
I don't know if we. It's hard to say though because I come home to visit my family, and who knows, I might have been dragged to see a Chuck Norris movie. Who wants to go see the Chuck Norris movie? Yeah, I'll go. I'm in.
Count Rawson.
Yeah.
But
there was the one with Lee Van Cleef. It was The Octagon with Chuck Norris. I'm not saying that that's the one you're talking about, but I'm just saying it was another Chuck Norris movie. Good Guys Wear Black, of course, was the first big one, I think.
I'm trying to think of what movie that would have been.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the one where he's the cop, which is like all of them probably. But
well, he was a cop in the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah. Well, there's the one. Yeah, it was the one that Gene and Roger actually liked. It was like the Chuck Norris movie that actually got good reviews, and I went to see it. And I said, "That wasn't all that," but it was a diverting 2 hour and a half, 2 hours.
Well, there you go.
There you go.
There you go. Silent Rage. I rewatched Silent Rage a few weeks ago. That's from Christian.
Okay.
And
is that the one with O'Halloran? We could very easily find it out when we get off of here.
There's
this thing they call Google.
Yeah,
that I hear you can
find anything on there, right?
I hear that the Google.
Yeah, the Google, not just Google. It's the Google.
The Google.
Goodness. Anyway, so I guess we should kind of wind things down a little bit. Folks, if you have any last minute comments you want to comment on the film, please do so. Just going to go to the shout outs portion of the show. I'm going to try to make this quick. I'm actually having a lot of computer issues tonight with sharing and presenting, so I apologize. Computer pretty much needs to be, I think, rebooted a few times over. But anyway, hey, and I see Carrie is joining us. Corey is joining us. Thanks for joining us, Corey. In regards to shout outs, want to give a shout out. In fact, Bill's out there tonight. Hey, Bill, shout out to Country Gate Players. Want to just say the show that they just did, which was Dracula. I actually had the opportunity to do that show 18 years ago, but it was fantastic. Hats out to the cast and crew of Dracula that just performed it last weekend at Country Gate Players. In regards to shows that will be coming up, visit the website, which is www.countrygate.org. And then also you can check out Bill's website in regards to information at www.billscorado.com for anything that Bill may also have coming down the pike. So it was just an amazing production, and as always. So stay tuned for upcoming events from Countrygate, and that's in the Belvedere, New Jersey area. Also, for Mike and Mary Beth, they will be back this Wednesday night. And Ross just had mentioned it too. And they're going to be talking about the 1985 classic Brazil, Terry Gilliam's film. And of course, Jonathan Bryce, we were just talking about him, is in cast in that. So that will be this Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Also, Captain Phil, WUSB, Stony Brook, New York. You can catch the captain on Friday nights from 9 to 11:30 p.m. Check the captain out. And also, just want to give a quick shout out to Star Trek Original Series Set Tour. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to attend, but this coming weekend, not a week from this weekend, it's going to be William Shatner will be back up there, and also Sandy Gimple will be there as well as a lot of other cool folks. So definitely go to the website. It is www.startrektour.com. Also, shout out to Martha from Studio One Thrift, and for everything dealing with Studio One Thrift. go to the website. It's www.studio1thrift.com. Quality, stylish, affordable clothing for men and women. You can also receive styling tips as noted. Just visit the website. Also, Warren and I kicked off a new podcast that we're doing, and it gets launched on Sundays, and we're going through all 48 episodes of Space 1999. We just did The Black Sun, so definitely check that out. And I've been sharing it on the show's page. So our special guest was Steve Warnack, and we discussed The Black Sun, and that was just released today. Also, a huge shout out to my son, Ryan. Ryan just did the New York City Marathon last Sunday, and he did an amazing job. And 55,000 participants, and he came actually in 527th. His time was 2 hours, 42 minutes, and 50 seconds.
Did you say 527?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
55,000?
55,525 participants, and
wow.
He was 527. Yeah. And his time was 2 hours, 42 minutes, and 50 seconds. And that's 26.1 miles. He ran a consistent, I think it was 6.111, 6 minute mile, essentially 6 minute and 11 second mile. It was crazy. I mean, he was just so consistent with his running, and he was having fun. It was great seeing him in New York City doing that. And yeah, he's so passionate about it. So with that said, definitely check out his website that he does online coaching. And to register, visit www.runbyryan.com. So very proud of him.
How long would it take you to run your, if you ran it, how long do you think it would take
you? As long as it would take you, Ross.
We'd still be out there. Who's that old man?
Oh shoot! and that's a good.
Yeah, I know. Look at it.
Bridge right there, Ross. So
well, those are my radio shows. I have no idea what I'm doing because it's next week. You know, when all those things air, and I haven't really thought about it yet. Picture Perfect's the movie music show. Sweetness and Light is the light music show, and The Lost Chord is unusual and neglected repertoire. They're all classical music oriented, or film music, classical music oriented, and they air on. They originate here in my basement, but they get broadcast out of KWAX now on the radio station, the University of Oregon. You can stream it wherever you are at the URL there. Just Google KWAX or. Check out my Facebook page at Classic Ross Amico. As the weekends approach, I always tease those on my Facebook page. And I write about music every day there too. So if you don't follow the page, check it out if you want.
Very cool.
Thanks, Roy.
Yeah, absolutely, Ross.
Hey, change that picture. We got to get rid of that picture.
I know. I was gonna try to change it.
I look like I just stepped off the mothership. Richard Dreyfuss is odd.
Ross looked into the light.
It looks like I'm about to give hand signals to Francois Truffaut.
Oh, shoot. So Ross and I are going to be back, and we're going to be back next Sunday, folks. No show next Friday, but we will be back next Sunday. We will be getting back to our Friday schedule, but right now, no show next Friday, but we'll be back next Sunday, November 17th, 2024 at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we will be talking about the 1970 classic film starring Christopher Lee, and that is Count Dracula.
Count Chocula.
Yeah, Count Chocula. There you go.
Yeah, and everybody's going to go, oh, which one? Which Christopher Lee? This is the one he did in Spain for Jess Franco. It's got Klaus Kinski as Renfield and Herbert Lom, Peter Sellers' boss.
Yeah.
It's Chief Inspector Dreyfuss. He's Von Helsing.
Oh, wow. Very, very cool. So yeah, looking forward to discussing that. Sherry said Missing in Action trilogy, and it's Missing in Action, and she said she Googled it.
Oh, you know what it was? It was I Googled it while you were I used the Google while you were talking there. And the one with Jack O'Halloran, is that the one you're talking about? It's The Hero and the Terror.
Yes, The Hero and the Terror.
Which I've never seen. So
was it 1988? Was I right about that?
It was, yes.
Wow. That's
Rayman is consistent. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much, Ross. Thank you very much. Mr. Vince, who isn't out there tonight, would reaffirm what you just said. So anyway, with that said, yeah, so just want to say thank you everyone for joining. We really appreciate it. And just want to give my love to my mom if she's out there watching, and she's got a lot of stuff coming up in regards to you know, health, surgeries, and just getting through a lot. So prayers are very much appreciated. And I love you, mom, and you're gonna get through this. Shari's been through a lot as well, and I love you too, hun, and you're gonna get through all of this as well too, and everything you've been dealing with. And then ironically enough, it was 11 years ago tonight that my dad had a major stroke, which he got through, and it's 11 years since then. So, and I love you too, Dad. So it's just a lot of stuff. And yeah, and again, so proud with Ryan, what he did with his racing and everything. And love you, buddy. Love you, Ryan. And yeah, so just wanted to put all that out there. And I love you too, Ross. Don't ever change, man. Don't ever change.
You got me right here, Roy. I kind of knew that I felt that wedge that got driven between us when we did Santa Claus versus the devil. But I knew deep down you still had feelings.
Shoot. Anyway, with all that said, it's always good to laugh. Laughter is good for the soul. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining us as always, and we really appreciate it. And thanks, Bill. Much appreciated.
Thanks, Bill.
And hope everyone has a wonderful week ahead. Stay safe and keep peace in your hearts. And as I always like to say, live long and prosper.
Live long and prosper.
Good night, everyone. Take care.
Have a good week.